Hey guys, welcome back to my brand new shiny Booktube channel. I'm Amy, and this is Tales and Tomes with Amy. So, pretty standard today. I just started Booktube, so I am going to go over all the questions for the Booktube Newbie Tag. So, let's jump right into it. Question number 1. Why did you start this channel? Well, I'm assuming they want me to elaborate beyond just my love of books. I started this channel basically because I am trying to keep myself sane during quarantine. It's been a real challenge. I was doing book podcasts and I continue to do podcasts where I feature books, particularly Gothic literature, modern poetry, a variety of things. But I wanted to give myself this space just so I can be like a little more random. I like to be very structured in my podcast, and so this channel is something that I can do by myself without a co-host, but also I can just go off on any tangent or review any book that I want. Question number 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? Well, again, I'm not sure if this is technically unique, but what I intend to do with my Booktube channel is I want to do a healthy balance between young adult and adult fiction. I think I enjoy both genres. I think both have their own merits, and I would like to meld the two together. And then in addition to that, I also want to do a balance of reviewing books that are brand new, but also books that are older. And from the books that are older, that probably more people have read them, I want to go into some more in-depth analysis. I'll probably make my own video about booktube consumerism because I'm very fascinated by that subject. But the only criticism of consumerism that I will give a little credit to is the fact that so much of Booktube is about the newest and the shiniest book that's out right now, and I want to pay homage to some older classics, and even not just books that have been out for a few years, books like actual classics of literature from the 18th and 19th century, particularly classics that haven't really been recognized to the same degree as people like Dickens or Austen and things like that. So I'm kind of going to be all over the place. What are you most excited for about this new channel? Of course, probably a very typical answer. I'm really excited into meeting all sorts of new booktubers, engaging with them, reading the same books that they are reading, and being able to compare and contrast, because that's the whole reason why I did my book podcast and why I got on Bookstagram and why I have my own neighborhood book club. I just love to interact with people via my passion for books. So that's what I'm most excited about, the community. Question number 4. Why do you love reading? That's a very deep question. To me, it's been such an ingrained part of my personality since I was quite young, since 10 years old. To me, a book was just as entertaining as TV or film. So yeah, I just love it because it's both an escapism, and then as I get older, it's a way to look at issues that are happening in the real world through literature, because no book is written in a vacuum and it reflects what's going on in the world today. So even though I don't like the contemporary genre that much, I tend to go towards fantasy and stuff, but the fact that we use fantasy and other fantastical elements in book as metaphors for things going on in real life. So that's one reason why I really enjoy reading. It's about how human imagination is trying to grapple with things going on in the real world. Question number 5. What book series got you into reading? If we're gonna go really young, when I was in 4th grade, I would have to say the Magic Treehouse book series, where it was this brother and sister, I think, who had this magic treehouse where the treehouse would transport them to different places and different time periods, and I just thought that was so cool, and I think everything just, was snowballed after that. Question number 6. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I think one of the main things I would want to ask the bigger YouTubers is how do they network with authors, because I've seen a lot of the bigger YouTubers be able to secure interviews with a lot of high profile writers, and that's something that I aspire to. I'm interviewing a ton of poets with my poetry podcast, some from just starting their Insta poet journey to those more famous who have hundreds of thousands of followers. So that's something I also aspire to. I want to get to a point where I am interviewing authors about their books. So that would be my biggest question for them, because that's what I want to do later down the line. Question number 7. What challenges do you think starting a Booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? Well, the first thing that was the hardest to overcome is figuring out all the technological issues of why my YouTube video wouldn't upload, and then it wouldn't, right after I finally got it to figure out how to upload, then it wouldn't process, and I had to go to all these tutorials and realize just a whole bunch of nonsense and all these little tricks, and finally I got the video process. So I'm sure technological issues will be a challenge for me. I am editing these videos via Adobe Premiere Pro, so just learning how that all works, that will be a little bit of challenge. I think one challenge will be that it is my intention to revisit a lot of books, a lot of very popular books that I'm sure there are tons and tons and tons of reviews. So that does not deter me. I'm still going to address those books because I think they're important to the quote-unquote Booktube canon, and I want to read them for my own knowledge, and I want to have my own take on it, but also being able to share it with the community, but also having a little bit of a twist and bit of my own pizzazz thrown in to make it unique and make it special. So I think just finding that balance of taking something that's popular and making it my own in just a little bit. Question number 8. When did you start reading? When did I start reading? Again, it's been ingrained in me since I was so young, probably since I was like 8 years old. And then, I read throughout middle school, I read throughout high school. In fact, my 7th grade English teacher did not teach me anything about grammar. And in fact, the way I learned to write and learned about grammar and everything was through fiction, more specifically The White Dragon by Anne McCaffrey. That is how I learned to write. So it's always been a staple in my life. And of course, like with many bookworms, when you go to college, particularly with grad school, you get stagnant and you just stop reading because you have so many textbooks, you have so much homework, you have, in grad school, you have all these other technical books you have to write. You just don't have time for fiction the way you used to. I remember the summer of 2015, that was right after I finished my first master's at Indiana University, but right before I went to Istanbul for my second master's. And that summer was basically what I like to dub the rereading, where I piled up on so many books because for once I was giving myself permission not to do anything that summer. I wasn't going abroad for a language program. I wasn't working at a language program. I gave myself permission to, chill out and vegetate before I went to Istanbul, and I just read. And so I think definitely in my adulthood that sort of reignited my passion for reading again. And now that I am no longer in grad school, I just have a normal 9-to-5 job, I now have the time to read and being able to enjoy books. Question number 9. Where do you read? I would say I would read in the privacy of my own home. Before the pandemic hit, I did have a half-an-hour commute, so I was spending an hour in the car going to and back from my job, and so I've really gotten into audiobooks because of that. So at home and in my car. Question number 10. What kind of books do you like to read? As I mentioned in the previous question, I like a balance of YA and adult fiction, but when it comes to genres, I tend to stay in fantasy. I also enjoy historical fiction, and I also really, really love Gothic literature. Contemporary is just not my thing. I will only pick up a contemporary book if it has a huge Gothic tone and element. Otherwise, I like to stay in my either historical fantasies or just, super epic high fantasy. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of what the books I cover is going to look like. So those are all the questions. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the subscription button. And if you want to check out my podcast, you can check them out at www.paganpoetess.com. See you later, everyone. Bye.